Welcome back, traders, to the channel. Today we'll be doing a full analysis on Nvidia stock, covering the weekly chart all the way towards a 5-minute chart to get the best view on the most anticipated AI stock in the market. With a valuation of $4 trillion, will Nvidia keep going higher? And if so, what are the price targets? Alright, first of all, let's begin with the weekly chart of the stock. As you can see, the stock has been on a very intense run ever since we went above the 50 MA, which was around the 12th of May that we had here. And then we had the April lows, which was an excellent buying opportunity here for the stock and generally the majority of Max 7 names. Now, I still do believe that the next area of resistance for Nvidia's stock is going to be towards the level of 195, based obviously off the Fibonacci retracements towards this low. Now we can see here that this resistance level is almost, really close to where we are now. And I believe that's why Nvidia is finding some type of short-term resistance and is not allowing for the explosive moves that we were seeing earlier. Also, take into consideration that the overall trend is pretty overextended and needs time for a pullback. And if so, I do expect the area to be around $152 and even towards $140 if the stock does find some type of short-term confluence with the overall macroeconomic sentiment, and I do expect some type of pullback towards there, but I still remain my price target on the longer term on Nvidia towards the level here that you guys can see towards $262, which is my overall price target on this stock. Now let's evaluate the overall daily chart of Nvidia. As you can see here, the stock has been pretty bullish, like I said, above the 50 and 200 EMA. But something very important I'd like to note here is that if we use anchored VWAP, which is overall average volume weighted average price here, we do get an overall levels of where Nvidia may pull back and find support in case we do fail this overall consolidation zone that we have been seeing on the stock. What I mean by this is that overall, ever since the April lows, we've been seeing this type of pattern. So we've been going up and then we've been seeing some flat consolidation just like this. This is overall what I like to call a bull flag. And generally, when we do break above this certain area of resistance around here, we can still go towards the upside. And generally, we do tend to pull back, and that's where we find our support, where pretty much the buyers defend their levels. And the people that went short here have to cover back their positions, and that's what leads to the upside. Now, I do believe that if Nvidia does go above the level here of $184 fully, then the stock is going to be completely bullish, and we can even do a projection, simple projection of our technical analysis guidebook, which is here. So for example, we have a bullish move, right? The flag right here, the pole, and simply what we do is measure from that pole all the way towards where the initial flag starts here, which is around $60. If this level does break, we can overall project $60 above this level of resistance, which is overall here, and that would lead to a price target on Nvidia on the daily chart towards $245, which does make sense here based on our current valuations of the company. Now, breaking it down even further, what I see here on the RSI is that, we are consolidating, but we are reaching a low here on the RSI, and we actually made a higher low here, showing that overall buyers are becoming more aggressive on the stock, and even had a crossover within this overall EMA where the RSI went above it, and this shows now that this overall could be underlying strength for the stock, and we could see it rise all the way towards the levels here of 79 on the RSI, which like I said, is an overextension on the buy side. But I do see some potential upside here on the stock, especially now after the earnings, where we had an exceptional amount of earnings, where they reported pretty much $1.05 earnings per share, and the estimate was $1, so they missed pretty well. They beat pretty well. And then the revenue was reported to be around 46.74 billion versus the estimate of 46 billion, which is a price around 1%, which is outstanding for this long-term company. Now we are on the 2-hour chart here of Nvidia. And the whole point here is to start from the longer-term trend, the weekly, all the way down to the nitty-gritty details of the 5-minute chart, which is overall intraday. And like I said here, since we're on the 2-hourly chart, we do get a better idea of how the stock is performing on the overall shorter term time frames here. As you can see, we are still in that consolidation phase that I said. We are, just flat. But like I said, if I do analyze here and put an anchored VWAP, and then another one here at this high, as long as the stock remains above both of these anchored VWAPs here and breaks above this level of resistance, which would be here, the overall 180 here on the stock, then I do believe we're prone for more upside, especially after this dip that we had around $163, which was an important support level. We went up and then we had a pullback at an important level, which was a 200 EMA. And like I said, the 200 EMA shows a longer term trend. And if we do hold that, that means that buyers from that longer term trend are still within the name, which is what we want to see for continued upside momentum. Now, like I said, a break above 180 and a hold above both of these overall anchored VWAPs alongside the 50 EMA, which is this yellow line, does postpone and overall allow for the upside where the supply is diminished by the overall overcoming demand here of the buyers, as well we have the RSI rising, which is a very good sign here for Nvidia. Now, let's analyze Nvidia on a 5-minute chart, which is, in my opinion, the best interval between the shorter term trend and longer term trends here. The 5-minute chart is generally used for day trading purposes, and like I said, we're analyzing the current price targets. So, remember the strategy that I mentioned to you guys, which is using the overall post-market and pre-market levels. Simply on Nvidia today, September 19th, we simply see that we had only had to plot the overall high of the day and the low of the day. And as soon as we would break above this level of resistance or this level of supply, which did happen, as you can see right here, that was our long position entry, which did happen with a price target towards one of the overall pivot points, which is R1. And that's where we're seeing that rejection of the price action. And we've been declining ever since 735 here. Now, I do believe, though, that the stock did not fail this low, which is important because it shows that the buyers picked up the low around this zone and then they were slowly just being more aggressive, and that's when we broke above this area of resistance. I do see the stock finding support around this zone of 176 or towards the levels of 176.09, even retesting the level that we broke priorly. And if we do, I do expect, a price target here on the intraday towards 177 or even towards $179.64, which is the next pivot point, and want to be R2. Generally, Nvidia has been decreasing its volatility and doesn't really have those wide swings that it used to have back then around 2023. And I do realize that generally Nvidia does tend to go around R1 or R2, or if it's a bearish day, towards, I'd say, S1 or S2, which are very good price targets here for the stock. Now, obviously, we still have to take into consideration the bearish side. What if these levels do not hold, like I said, and we see bearish momentum or there's a lot of selling? Well, in this case, I do believe that if the stock does not hold these levels or even hold the 200 EMA, which is right here, this important level, then I do believe that the stock will go towards the levels of 175.43, which can be shorted, and towards a level of $173.78, which is where I believe that overall, if you enter short, you do have a nice profit towards pretty much almost 2% or $3 in the money. Obviously, depending upon the shares, if you put 100 shares, that's $200, but 1,000 shares, that's $3,000. So as long as the buyers do not defend that level, this overall stock can be shorted. But we tend to like to consider the longer term trend and what the overall buyers have been telling us. And that's what they've been saying. Ever since the beginning of the trading day, they've broke above this level and show that they are strong. And most likely they are committed to keep defending their levels and buy more of the stock in order to prevent their losses. And that's what we're seeing right now here. As you can see here on the 50 MA, this candle, if I zoom in here, is finding some buyers. Look at this. So when we have these lower wicks, it shows that there's the price action is going down, but there's people picking it up. There's buyers like here. Look at that. Like we're seeing this live, exactly live. That's what's happening here. So we do find levels, and like I said, it can still target towards 177 or even towards a level here of $179.58 here on the intraday chart of Nvidia. And there you have it. With Nvidia still being the leader in AI and development, and the recent partnering with Intel, I do believe that the stock is prone for more upside on the longer term. Now, on the intraday time frame, like the 5-minute, I do believe that the stock will be finding some support, which is currently what we're seeing here on the overall price action, where we found support at around 805 at the overall 50 EMA here, which is an excellent level to buy the stock here. Now, if you enjoyed this video, feel free to subscribe to the channel, give it a like, and as always, don't let the markets whip you guys out. I'll see you guys on the next one.